All right, welcome back to another episode of CAGESIDE. Pretty excited. Last week there was no fights. We're back in studio. I'm pretty pumped because today's guest not only has been part of the show before, back when we started doing everything remotely and everything, we're back in studio with a guest, Jamie Colleen, pro fighter. We're happy to have you. Finally, you're back in studio.
In the flesh, right?
Yeah, this is exciting.
So exciting. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what are you up to? What's the daily thing going on for you right now?
Where do I start?
Are you training? You're back to training?
Yeah, I'm training full time. Okay. Just kind of staying ready for anything that might come. I mean, obviously with COVID and everything, it's hard to have, what we would consider like a normal training camp for us. I feel like a lot of our guys on the team are taking fights within 2 and 3 weeks notice. And so we just kind of have to stay ready at all times. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just training like I'm in camp every single day and, keeping my weight down. So
which ultimately is actually like the perfect way as a fighter, right? To be always prepared and never really gain the weight and never really, so that way you can be, have that constant
keeps us
edge.
ready for sure. Yeah.
So is that what's happening right now? Like I've heard it before, recently too, where fighters are taking fights last minute because of COVID? Is it because fights are being awarded last minute because fights are falling through?
I think so too. And plus, obviously, with COVID, people just sort of, catch a case,
like catch an actual case, catch a case of COVID. I mean, some people I'm sure are catching cases, but
and so it's kind of like, you can't really anticipate that. So yeah, fights are falling through because guys are, girls are, coming down with it and don't realize that they have it because there's, and a lot of times no symptoms. And so, yeah.
Now, is that, for us a fighter, is that exciting because there's that possibility that you get a call? Or is it is it scary because you don't want to get that last minute call?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want anybody to catch a case because, but at the same time, having that, the thought of a fight could fall through. So that's kind of, like I said, I think that's part of all of our mentality right now. Our team is just we're just waiting for that call.
And you train at Gracie's, right?
Yes.
How's that? So what's the gym dynamic these days? Is everything's kind of back to normal? Fighters training?
I wouldn't quite say that. I mean, as far as our fight training, yes, because we are sort of what would be considered a small group. So, our training, we're good. Everybody's healthy there. So, but as far as the jiu-jitsu side of things, we're sort of still, easing in with that. And, there's a lot of restrictions and things we have to follow. So,
I follow, the team over there. And so it seems like there's a lot of pro fighters that are always there. Paul Felder, Sean Brady, Eddie, there's I always see kind of the same kind.
We have a lot of
high caliber people.
Yeah, high caliber. It's just, you're basically training with, the best of the best. And it's actually I look up to them so much. So it's, and anytime they're on the mats with us, I'm always learning just by watching them and, growing and awesome.
You guys keep each other sharp.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been in Philly you're not originally from Philly, but you've been in Philly for a long time, right?
Yeah, 11 years in Philly.
11 years.
Born and raised in West Virginia.
Okay.
Country
so what's Philly to you? What does it feel like to be a Philly fighter? Because you would call yourself a Philly fighter, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we're the fighting city. I mean, I take a lot of pride in that. So. Yeah,
there's the grit and the edge of the Philly fighter. So I think if you're going to be a fighter, that's a cool place to be from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so I know, so you're keeping sharp for, in case any fights come through, which is awesome. I'm glad to hear that. What's going on? What are you working on? I see you're doing a lot of positive stuff and you're kind of really helping, women just feel confident and kind of push themselves to be the best they can be. So tell me a little bit about that mission. I know you've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, sure. So actually before COVID hit, I was already sort of starting my business in that, an online fitness and lifestyle coach. And so basically what I do on that end is I connect women or men, I mean, really anybody, to home workouts. There's, guided nutrition, accountability groups that I provide through private groups on Facebook. And then obviously you get the one-on-one coaching from me as well, just to keep you on track and keep you motivated and to help you reach your goals. And so I I have that, and that I will always have, but I'm sort of pivoting more, back into, again, because COVID, I had a lot of plans to teach all around the city, a lot of seminars and workshops for businesses and other gyms, and then
now, is this like self-defense type stuff? Or
yeah,
is it...
self-defense,
Okay.
primarily self-defense, yes. And so yeah, that really kind of took a toll on my plans, to say the least. But then I honestly, I can't say it's a terrible thing that happened, because I was still able to reach a lot of people, virtually, which was still great. As long as I'm reaching people, I'm happy. So
that's probably opened up like another branch to what you do anyway too, because I'm sure before you probably thought it all had to be there and physical and live, one-on-one, or or in person.
It really does like spike your creativity.
Yeah,
and
you have to figure out.
Yeah, you have to make it work. So, but like I said, I'm moving more into the in-person training. We have like a lot of big plans with doing live self-defense classes and workshops for women, like, which is what I was just explaining. We want to get back to that. So
those would be like boot camp type
yeah,
things.
Yeah. So we will be announcing our first class soon.
Okay, cool.
I can't really say too
In
much
Philly.
about it yet. Yes, in
Starting?
Philly.
Okay.
Yep.
And then branching out, I'm sure, going from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot of exciting things, and so I like to keep myself busy. I still do a lot of advocacy work for, domestic violence, survivors, victims. I reach a lot, again, virtually, a lot of people through Facebook and Instagram. A lot of people reach out to me and just, always asking for advice and how I got to, through different phases of my life in order to rebuild. And so, I still working with women against abuse, and so what I do with them now, because it's really challenging, again, because it's all virtual. So before I was doing this in person, where they have their like a quarterly training for their new advocates and volunteers and employees. And so I would sort of come in at the end of that training and, share my story and, just discuss things with the group there. So, but we switched to virtual, and it's fine, but I feel like I'm still, I think, making an impact, but it's not quite the same as when you're like in the flesh and in person, and you have that.
You probably can't feel the same kind of level of the emotion or the reaction from people. So how does that all? I think it's obvious how it ties together, but like you have the fighter mentality and instinct, and there's a lot to the type of person who is a fighter. So you're teaching that in these type of, in the one-on-ones or in the courses or the boot camps coming up, and then the domestic violence thing. Like, is it a strength, a mental strength thing? Like, is that how it all kind of ties together?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, it's all, for me, all about mindset, and I find that while everybody's situation or circumstances might be different, I think it all ties into your mindset and how you perceive your circumstances, and how I find oftentimes people allow that to define them, their circumstances. And it's sort of my job to remind them that it's just, something you go through, and it's just part of your journey, and you can't be defined by that, because that's not who you are. Yeah. And I always just try to remind people that they have a greater purpose than that, and they're meant for more, not just for what they went through.
Right. Empowering.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, I think you're a good, there's nothing... There's a lot of people out there who talk a lot about, what you should and what you shouldn't do, and they have positive messages and all this stuff, which is great, and I'm sure it helps a lot of people. But I think when you're an example, when you're an embodiment of what you're putting out there, it makes that much more of a difference.
Yeah, exactly, like you said, that makes all the difference, because not only like did I live it, but I was able to rebuild and sort of bounce back in like the most epic way possible, and I want to give that to others and give them that hope. And
we don't have to get into details if you don't want to, but like, is there a small recap of your story that you can share on the show that kind of shows? You've been a fighter through all this, in and out, through your personal experiences.
Yes.
Can you kind of shine a light a little bit on what you went through and how you got out of it?
Yeah.
Because maybe that would help.
Of course,
somebody.
I'm happy to touch on that. So, I was in an abusive relationship for 6.5 years. That was back in 2007. And, I was actually already pursuing my goals in this MMA, in this game. And so, but once I sort of got sucked into that relationship, everything that was important to me and what I wanted to do was put on the back burner because I just fell victim to this, person and master manipulator. So I was just under his control, but I experienced like a lot of physical abuse, the financial, mental and emotional on a daily basis. And so I was just broken down for many years. And here and there, I would sort of try to jump back into MMA and try to do things. But I feel like as soon as I started to gain momentum in that, I would get sucked back in because oftentimes in these relationships, the abuser don't want to see that. They don't want you to feel confident. They don't want you to see that there's more out there besides them. Like your life revolves around this person. So,
because they lose the control. They lose that, what empowers them.
Then they lose themselves basically. Yeah. Right. So, with that, I put everything on the back burner for many, many years and just, I was really unhappy. And I always felt like that, it was like a hole in my heart because that was my passion, what I wanted to do. So toward the end of the at the end of the relationship, we there was a situation that happened, and my daughter and I were forced to seek shelter at a domestic violence safe haven, which wasn't easy to get into. I was homeless for about a month because resources are limited, and so you can't just call and say, "Hey, I need space," and they're like, it was a daily fight to.
Which brings up also the point to like, the more awareness there is, probably the more opportunities for people who are in these cases to find that home, to find that space.
Yeah, and that was my first first time I had heard of Women Against Abuse, and so through them and through their program, I was able to. I was that annoying person. I used every single resource, and like I said, they're limited, so they weren't always available for me. But I was that person that showed up every single day. I would not take no for an answer, and eventually, like things started to take a turn for me, and just like I said, through their program, through their support, and obviously the support from my team. Which, by the way, they had no idea I was even going through any of that. They were aware of the relationship and how it ended because my ex was also a fighter. We were, in the same community, so people knew both of us. And basically, but they didn't know that we were in a shelter. They knew the relationship had ended, but didn't know. So I was just showing up to the gym every day. Like Daniel had no idea, and I'm just training and pretending. Because that was honestly the one thing that felt just normal, natural, and it was my outlet. It was. It's funny because a lot of people say like jiu-jitsu saves or martial arts saves, and it really does. Like it brought me back to life. It really did. So, so not to get off course, but I finally opened up to Daniel one day and told him about what I was going through, and he just was beside himself that I didn't say something sooner because he has also resources to help me, and maybe I could have transitioned out of the shelter sooner, but I'm the person
you're
who
also
I'm like, I want to do this shit myself. I want to be the one to say like I did this, and I mean obviously you have a support system with anything you do, but which I appreciate.
And help is good. Help is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And never be afraid to ask for help. I mean, but I'm also very stubborn. So once I got to the point where I didn't have to be like, with everything I needed to sort of lay that foundation of, rebuilding, I felt like I didn't have to ask for help. I felt like I could sort of figure things out as I go.
Right. And then you could open up at that point a little bit more.
Right. And if I did need the help, then I ask for it. That's.
Do you remember the specific kind of moment? Not when you decided that you needed to get out, but the specific moment where your mindset shifted from that of being kind of oppressed to I'm gonna get out.
Mm-hmm. I remember it. Yeah. I'm not sure where it came from, but there was a point where a conversation was happening, a not very nice conversation with my ex, who was out of town at the time, and I remember that, and it was Mother's Day. I just will always stick out in my mind because that was just such I don't really know the word for it, but I don't know. I feel like it means something. I'm not quite sure what yet, but I recall just there was like this calmness over me, and I felt at peace with, like, I finally was accepting I was in an abusive relationship. For all those years, I was always making excuses for him, always apologizing for things I didn't do, just to get past the argument or get past whatever was happening. And it was always me taking the blame for everything. And this time, like, you know, I'm just getting all these things thrown at me from him, and I'm just like, this is where I'm at. I get it now. And then I just felt at peace. I felt calm, and I was just not responding to him the way he wanted me to. So it kind of made him more angry, but I felt like because he wasn't, you know, he was out of town, and I felt safe enough to sort of just be like, okay, you know, sorry you feel that way, but okay, like what are we gonna do about it? Like, it just, something in me was just like, this has to end somehow and soon, and because things were escalating, and I didn't want things, you know, I wanted to, like, live for my daughter. I wanted to like stay alive, and so my mother had suggested, because she actually didn't know we were still going through this like crazy experience. Because I wasn't telling her about it anymore, she thought things were better, but I honestly wasn't telling her because I didn't want her to worry or stress out anymore about it. So I had called her that day, and I was just told her everything, and she was really, you know, really upset, and suggested that my daughter and I come visit family, because we were supposed to go to a wedding anyway, like that following weekend for his friend. And so my mom suggested we leave a little early, you know, and so I said, okay. So I packed like a bag for, you know, the 3 or 4 days that we'd be gone. And I didn't tell him till we left on the train, hey, like, we'll see you, you know, when you come down for the wedding. And it was actually in Ohio, of all places. So it was perfect. So we just hopped on the train. I told him, and from there it was just like a downward, you know, spiral. It was just, you know, everything from saying, like, it called me everything under the sun, said I was kidnapping our daughter, said
he lost control. He was trying to...
Yeah, because I never did anything without his consent, ever. So for me to do that was a big deal, and a big reason why I waited until we were on the train was because I knew, had I told him ahead of time, he would have...
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten on that train.
I never would have, So, so that was sort of that train ride down. Actually, that when Celine and I were in the park having the picnic, I was on the phone. That was like that moment of like, this is where you're at. I just kept that same composure. I'm not sure how, the whole way down somewhere. And I remember I never had a phone of my own, because he always smashed every phone that I had. So, but at this time, because he was gone, he had to like keep tabs on me, I guess. I had like a little like cheap flip phone. And I remember the memory kept filling up literally every minute or so. So I'm like, nobody's going to believe me if I don't document this somehow. So I just took the phone that my daughter used to play games, just like an old iPhone, and just like I was snapping pictures the whole time. 17 hours, thousands of text messages that we were able later to use in court. And but yeah, that was sort of like the moment for me. And like once I got to Ohio, you know, just feeling safe and, you know, all that with my family. It was like really refreshing. But yeah, just that whole time, wherever that composure came from, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, it may have been just the realization of this is where you're at, and either you can, you know, stay and live this life, or choose your daughter and like live your best life. And whatever that middle, you know, that gray area, that middle part of like how I got to that point of living my best life, you know, that was the hardest thing I think I ever had to go through. But I was willing to lose everything to, you know, to gain it all. You know, I lost everything. Everything I owned, my home. You know, I tell people this story a lot because I think it gives more of a perspective of feeling just, I know the people on the street pushing those carts or just like sitting on the sidewalk. I know what that feels like because I was one of those people before I mean, I wasn't like every night, but I remember a couple of instances during the day just walking aimlessly with, the stroller and our stuff piled on the stroller and just not knowing where to go and calling shelters, trying to find help, trying to find resources. That was really hard. So, but yeah, it's, but I feel like it just makes, knowing now that I got through that, I feel like I was saying, like, yeah, you can either just be defined by that. And like, there's no way. And I never considered myself a victim really through that whole thing, because I knew if I did, that's like that whole mindset thing I talk about, is because you can, when you define yourself as a victim, like once you get through it, I mean, there's victims of crime and victims of like things when they happen, but once you survive it and move forward, then you survive. You're a survivor because you survived it. Yeah. So you don't want to fall into that victim mode, because then it'll pour into other areas of your life. And I think another really difficult thing for me getting through it was forgiving him. And it's really hard to forgive someone who isn't sorry for what they've done. And right. But I didn't really forgive for that. I don't give a shit if he's sorry or not. I forgave, for myself. I forgave so I could just like release all of just anything that was tied to him, like the pain, the bitterness, just anything I would be harboring because of that. And so once I released that, it was just like I was off. I was like flying high. Yeah. So I think when we play it, like when we fall into that victim mode, like you sort of just like you carry all that with you everywhere you go. Right. And I think it's just important to, actually, Will Smith, I love listening to him. He's so motivating and he's really smart too. I think I recall watching a video where he was discussing like fault versus responsibility, and how it might not be your fault that you're in a situation, but it's your responsibility. It's your life. It's your responsibility to how you're going to recover from it, how you're going to move forward. Right. So that's like, again, the whole mindset you have to
There's a lot of people who stay victims, and they, they need to get that strength to...
You gotta like release it, And sometimes, and it's through forgiveness,
So today, we're happy?
Oh, we're elated,
we're energized, and we got strength, and daughter's doing good.
Yeah, she's doing great. Yeah, she's, she's a little warrior herself,
She's watching you go through all this stuff. Right? I mean, listen, you don't want to, as a parent, you don't want to ever put your kids in a situation where you just don't want them to suffer in any possible way, right? So I'm sure that was horrible for you to feel probably at that point, but then I'm sure that gave you also the power, the strength that you needed. And
I think too, just I wanted to be an example and just handle myself with grace for her. I wanted her to know that really bad things can happen, but you don't have to let it change your heart or change who you are.
Yeah. So that's a great thing to teach a child. So that's awesome. Well, but we're training. We're ready to fight.
Oh yeah, bring it on.
Thanks for sharing that story. I mean, I know it's not easy, and I think it's good for people to hear.
It's necessary for sure.
There's somebody out there who I'm sure needs to hear it. So cage side fights are finally popping. Oh, so yes. I think we have to talk fights. Are you in?
I'm in. I'm all in.
So this weekend, Max Holloway fights. So we're back in Fight Island, and as you recall, how excited I was for Fight Island when they sold us this whole idea. I remember the T-shirt. It's right there. I had to frame it.
I thought that was like a poster, but it's your shirt.
I know, it's the only two shirts I've ever bought.
You were obsessed with getting your T-shirt.
I just got, I was flying high on sports being back, and especially fights.
It's so exciting. Oh my God.
Whatever, give it to me. Whatever you want. If you're going to create an island, I'm that much more excited for it.
Right? Can we just go?
But now we know what it is.
Can we just go?
It's just a fight. So we're back in Abu Dhabi. We have 3 fights starting this weekend, coming up Saturday, then next Wednesday, then that following Saturday. But this weekend, not the strongest card, but Max Holloway fights Kattar. So Max Holloway, obviously a beast, kind of carried his belt for a while there, lost to Volkanovski, 2 fights in a row. I think the last one he won. I think a lot of people did too.
Yeah.
So I think where that puts him is this fight, he either kind of proves that he's still there and he should get that Volkanovski fight next, or I think Volkanovski might fight Brian Ortega next, who got destroyed by Max Holloway. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Ortega's a new guy again now too. I think he fired his whole team before
I'm not aware of that. Oh.
before his fight with Korean Zombie. I think he got rid of everybody, which is a ballsy, awesome move for a fighter.
Sometimes you gotta do what you think is best for you as a fighter, and sometimes
it's got to be tough though. Like, I mean, these are the guys that you probably have been coming up with for a long time. Like, that's like you saying to your people, like, listen, it's just not working. Like, I need to step it up or do something different just to make it, to make it. So anyway, so he's might fight Volkanovski, and then Max Holloway, if he wins this fight with Kattar, then he should probably be back to fight him again for the third time. Kattar is coming up pretty fast, pretty strong, looking good.
Yeah.
Has had 2 wins, I believe, straight. And is a Boston guy, Massachusetts guy, coming from a strong team himself. What do you think about Max Holloway? What do any thoughts on either of these two guys, or we can make picks later if you want, but
yeah, no, I mean, I'm a Holloway fan. I love Holloway, but I think they're both at that point of they're both hungry. I think Max wants to, sort of maybe, like you said, prove or redeem that loss, which was very controversial. So, I think they're both extremely hungry. Like Kattar, he's, obviously wants to prove like, hey, I'm, I want to beat the best. So I think they're both like really, really hungry now.
Yeah, it's a huge name. For Kattar.
Absolutely.
To get a win over.
I think it's going to be a great fight. I think that's ultimately what I'm looking forward to the most, is just seeing like a badass fight. Yeah.
Which Max Holloway always gives you. I mean,
between two, like, they're both incredible on the feet. I mean, I think Kattar probably would have more of an advantage on the ground, but they both seem to like to keep things standing. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I mean, that can guarantee just a banger of a fight.
Yeah,
I'm pumped for that. Like I said, not the strongest card. I feel like every time McGregor's coming up, fight cards get a little weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's I'm sure it's a financial thing. But no disrespect to anybody on the card. It's just some names that aren't aren't on everybody's radar. And then the week following, Wednesday, there is another fight night, or fight day, you can call it, which was Leon Edwards, I think, versus Kazmat, which then fell through. I think that's the third or second time that falls through. So then they gave it to Kiesa versus Neil Magni. Under the radar a little bit, but that could be a good fight. What do you think?
I think they're both too, like, kind of in that same pool of like, I gotta, have something to prove, and I think I like both of them. That's a hard pick for me, but I mean, again, like, I don't know. They're both still, like I said, hungry to fight.
It can go either way.
Yeah, either way. So,
Kiesa's been doing a lot of commentating stuff too recently, which was kind of. I didn't think he. I don't know. I was surprised to see him. He's good.
You'd be surprised at like.
He argues with DC a lot though.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's almost like a brotherly like thing where like one says something and offends the other, and the other, But I like him.
Great for entertainment.
What's that?
For sure. I said it's great for entertainment.
Oh, it is for sure. Yeah. Would you ever do that? Would you ever do commentating?
I would, absolutely. Yeah.
And then the following Saturday is McGregor versus Poirier 2. I've shown excitement over McGregor before, so and Poirier. So I'm sure you know how I feel about that. What do you think about that?
I can't pick. I don't know because I love Poirier. Obviously, like that guy. I don't know.
He's just so damn good.
I know, but McGregor is just kind of like he just. I don't
McGregor's calls fights in my house, so like I used to be such a big thing. Like I can't even host McGregor fights anymore. The last fight, my wife, was like, "Hey, that was fake. That was it. That was, Cowboy went in there. He knew he was gonna lose." I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I don't like people telling me that anything's rigged,
right? Yeah.
Especially when I get so invested in it.
But I don't know. I have a hard time. Like, I mean, as a fighter, I love, I think McGregor's awesome. I feel like he says what he's going to do and he just goes out and does it. Like, who does that? I don't know. Yeah. But
And I mean, seeing him being so good in his personal life and his training goes to show you how bad he actually was during the Khabib fight, like training for the Khabib fight. Because even like his presence on social media, the things he says, the way he looks, like you can tell. I don't know if it was because he was hitting the whiskey a little too hard because he had just launched it, or he just thought it was an easy fight for him. The dedication you could tell wasn't there, and everybody's talked about it. And Dana White just recently came out saying the McGregor that's currently here, I can tell a difference, and he's that guy. Yeah, not the guy who fought Khabib.
Right.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, against Poirier, and last fight.
McGregor I want to see. You know what I mean? I don't like the. I mean, I get it, like the showing, like being, and whatever. But I like seeing the more focused, the more disciplined McGregor.
Well, it's exciting seeing you on all the press conferences. Like that's entertaining.
That is for sure.
And I miss it, honestly. It's been a long time since we've seen that. But you have to go in there, you call the shot, and you do it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You go in there, you perform to a high level that's just not seen. That's exciting. Now, if you start talking a lot and it becomes more like outside of the cage than inside the cage, then it can get a little frustrating.
The fight itself. So.
Do you talk any trash when you fight?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so.
That doesn't give you like an edge? Like you don't feel like it gives you?
No, not really. I probably should because it might help like, put my name out there more or whatever. But I don't know. That's just not really.
I think you can't fake it, right? Like if that's not in you. It'll be clear.
I'm the type of person I just like let my skills do the talking, and I don't. The way I see it is that I don't need to. I don't need to because like I know I'm gonna kick your ass. So why do I need to say
you're
it?
Trash talking right now. Hey, you're trash talking right now. You're doing it.
It's my practice. Run.
That's funny. Yeah. So to kind of tidy it up, McGregor, Poirier, they fought before. McGregor knocked him out too quick to even know what that would have been like, but completely different fighters at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Poirier has been looking amazing, all the way through till now. So I think he's developed a lot as a fighter.
Yeah.
McGregor has too, but I think he's developed a lot. So, should we make some picks? We'll start with this weekend. Max Holloway versus Kattar. What do you think?
Holloway.
I got Holloway too.
I think he's going to pull it, for sure.
But I think they both look so good that it doesn't affect whoever loses. I think he needs it more because of the 2 losses against Volkanovski. But I think Kattar still looks great after this fight.
Agreed.
Poirier versus McGregor. What do you think?
I don't know. My heart says Poirier. Yeah.
I can see it. That's the problem.
Go with my heart.
I want to go McGregor, but I can kind of see it. Yeah. You think a finish?
I'm gonna say yes. I'll say yes.
You think McGregor gets finished? And by it would have to be strikes.
You can't do this to me. I don't know.
I'm just saying because there's no Poirier doesn't. I mean, when was the last time you choked somebody out?
I know. Shit. Okay.
So you're saying that Conor gets dropped?
Maybe not a finish. All right. I say split decision. I see it being close.
Okay. Like a Nate Diaz. Well, no, because Nate Diaz lost. I mean, he lost the decision. He won by submission. Yeah. So, well, I'm gonna go McGregor. I smile because I feel like of course I would say that. I'm gonna go McGregor by finish. But it'll be surprising because I think Poirier doesn't get finished. Like Poirier usually he looks so damn strong against Hooker and he looked amazing there, and I don't know, anybody but Khabib he looked but the fight with Khabib he looked fantastic. So I just hope it was honestly a decision's great. Let's do that because it'll be an enjoyable 5 rounds.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Anything else? Who's your favorite Philly fighter? Before we wrap it up.
Ooh.
Right now. They could be local, like more regional type stuff, or they could be UFC.
Ooh. That's tough. I mean, favorite fighter, jeez Louise. Honestly, not to be like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, like obvious or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
The expected answer?
Yeah. I'm going to say my teammate, Sean Brady. He is my favorite fighter currently. Yes.
He has, there's a lot of people saying really good things about him.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you'll agree that everybody says he's the hardest trainer or, he trains the hardest.
Honestly, the hardest working person on the planet right now. Like even at the, the.
Does he fight in the McGregor card? I think he does.
What date is that?
January 23rd.
No, his fight is in March, I believe.
So 258 maybe?
I think so, and I don't recall
Damn, I
who
should
his
probably know
opponent
this.
is. I should know too. It's my favorite fighter. Like, who's he fighting?
I think our producer's looking it up right now.
But yeah, I mean.
Either way, he's coming up.
He's coming up, and he's going to make a statement for sure. I mean, he's
good,
fighter.
awesome,
yeah, for sure.
I can't wait. I mean, we have Paul Felder, we have Alvarez, we have a bunch of good people.
What makes it so special, like knowing and seeing, guys like Sean and Paul, like we've seen them. I've been with Daniel for 7 years, so that's when I've met them. I've been training with them since, and it's
so
really
you've seen them develop into what they've become.
Amazing. It's so inspiring to see their journeys and to see them just.
Is there a different energy in the gym when they're there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, everybody sort of, we call Sean like he's the captain of our team, so he's that person for everybody. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So.
Well, in that small world of such heavy hitters, for somebody being called the head there, that's
for sure. Yeah,
that says a lot about you as a fighter, as a person, and that means I'm sure a lot to him.
Yeah, he's that guy. So yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing him in whichever fight card he's in. I know it's coming up.
It's coming up. Sorry, Sean. I should know these things.
My bad. But I know. I mean, he posted it recently. I know it's on one of the two next big cards. So we'll be.
Yeah, and
that
I cannot wait to see, because that's going to put him.
I remember. I think his last fight.
I think ranked if he beats.
That's what he's looking for this year.
Yeah, he's looking
and
for that rank.
I believe, his last fight, because he got injured, right? So I think his last big fight, Dana White called him out as like the fight to watch that night. So I'm glad he got the eyeballs.
Yeah.
And he performed so well.
Yeah, I think that'll be for him again, the fight to watch again. So
that's fantastic. So we look forward to seeing that. All right, that's it.
Cool.
Another episode of Cage Side. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited that we're back again.
Anytime you want to be here.
Cool.
You got your space.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks. Did we forget anything?
No.
I forgot to mention Hooker versus Chandler, but whatever.
That's okay.
Let me make
Who
sure.
do you have in that fight? Yeah.
I think Chandler, not to say that like it's everybody says like UFC's a different level. Yeah, it is. But I mean, Hooker's a big dude.
Yeah.